Welcome into the first ever airing of NC Preps TV. I'm Josh McKinnon here with my co-host Kevin Utz. Kevin, let's jump right into things here. The first week here in North Carolina high school football, who's your player of the week?
Player of the week is definitely BJ Beecher. 21 of 26 for a career high 454 yards, 7 touchdowns. Barely threw for over 300 yards in games last year. Halftime, week one, 339 yards, 5 touchdowns. Great performance by BJ Beecher. Consensus player of the week one, Concord.
Yep, Kevin. Me and you were both at the Butler Mallard Creek game. We look on Twitter and we see his stats, and I'm sitting there thinking, man, these are video game numbers.
Those numbers were insane. It was video game numbers, Josh.
Yeah, shout out to BJ Beecher on that performance and the Concord Spiders. Let's cover the North Carolina NC Preps game of the week last week, Butler versus Mallard Creek. Kevin, we both were there as long as it seemed like everybody else was there in the state of North Carolina. What really stood out to you?
Butler's defense looked amazing. One of the best defenses in the state. Peter Comby led the attack. Was impressive performance by Butler. It really held Mount Creek to nothing. They shut Marquez North to 0 catches for the entire game.
Yeah, all off season, all we've heard is this Butler offense. It's supposed to be the best in the state, and it is very good. Don't get me wrong, but that Butler defense had a little something to say. Channing Stribling. Not only you usually hear about him on offense, making plays with the ball in his hands, but very first play of the game on defense, he jumps up and intercepts a pass and kind of set the tone from there for the rest of the night for the defense.
Now, I said the defense was impressive, but don't sleep on that offense, Josh. They got SEC talent on that offense. Riley Ferguson hit a 60-yard swing pass to Josh Gleason to take the 7-0 lead in the first quarter, and then followed it up in the second quarter to Riley LeMay with a 30-yard and 32-yard strike in the back right end zone to Riley LeMay. Took a 24-0 lead to halftime.
Yeah, and that's the touchdown right before half was not on just any defensive back. That was on three-star Anthony Covington, and sometimes good players do that to good players. Sometimes you don't even have to make a mistake, and they can make you kind of look silly. And we didn't really see much of Covington in the second half. I'm not sure if he was hurt or exactly what the reason was, but he's a great talent, and I'm sure we'll see him back out on the field. Kevin, though, let's jump in. What really stood out to you in the second half?
Second half looked like a different story for Mount Creek. They came out, defense really played strong, forced 3 interceptions on 3 straight drives and a fumble the next possession, 4 straight turnovers for Butler. Really thought it was going to change, but that Butler defense was still stingy. Marquez North got a 9-yard Wildcat run for the touchdown, but Butler defense all the other times held them back.
Yeah, and another important part of the game, and we talked about this a little bit before kickoff with special teams. You come in a very first week, and and it's going to be a dogfight. Two of the best teams in the state of North Carolina. Something's got to give, and it could have been on special teams, and it ended up doing that. Butler comes in with a great game plan on special teams, not to give the ball to Marquez North.
They kept it out of his hands. He didn't touch the ball at all. They kicked out of bounds or kicked away from his side of the field the entire game.
Yeah, and then not only that, but Butler comes through and not only makes all their extra points, which they should do. They also make 2 field goals.
2 long field goals. In fact, Josh, Mallard Creek also struggled on special teams, missing 2 field goals. One was a bad snap. I can't put that all on the kicker, but bad snap, late hold. But the extra point was blocked, but they missed 2 field goals and an extra point in that second half that really stalled momentum that they did gain from those turnovers they got from Butler.
Yeah, Butler, they just are off and running once again in the state of North Carolina, looking to get back to that state championship. Kevin, as you look across the scoreboard from last week's games in the state, what really jumps out to you the most?
Wow, what jumps out at me is 3 defending state champions lost in the first week of the season, week one. Page, at Davie, Murphy, and West Stokes all fall, losing their crown of state champion from last year already. It's amazing to see the turnover in some teams. How about you when you look at your scorecard? What are you thinking after week one, Josh?
Well, it kind of starts on Thursday with me at the A.L. Brown game. They come out and beat Shelby 44-0. Could this be the year the Wonders get back to the state championship? They're loaded with athletes. This team loses Damian Washington, but they just return tons and tons of athletes. And we know Coach Newsom's always going to have a great game plan. But what really stands out to me is Tarboro. The program is just dominated 2A football for the past 3, 4 years. And, they lose a guy like Todd Gurley, who was the Arnold R. Solomon Player of the Year in North Carolina. And they just, come back and strong as ever. They're already headed in the right direction week one with an impressive victory. And when you got athletes on your team like Tyquan Lewis and great leaders, good things are going to happen.
It's a winning program, Josh. There's a great team and replace talent. They lose a talent like Todd Gurley, and he's a great player and be a great player at Georgia.
Yep. Guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to talk about the upcoming games in the state of North Carolina, as well as our game of the week, New Bern and Havelock. Welcome back to NC Preps TV. I'm Josh McKinnon, along with my co-host Kevin Utz. The NC Preps game of the week is New Bern at Havelock. Kevin, give us a breakdown.
It's really going to be a great game, Josh. It's going to be a game that can determine who can be the best team in the East in the early going of the season. I'm leaning towards Havelock pulling this one out in a close game so far.
I've got Havelock as well. When you got athletes like Faroe Cooper and Darrell Scott, it's hard to pick against them. Let's bring in the publisher of NCPreps.com, Deana King, to break down each team.
New Bern has been one of the top 4A, 4AA programs in the East for, like 5 to 6 years. They've been known to be the ender of the Big Street Independence had and everything, and they've historically have been a deep playoff team, and this year shouldn't be any different. They've got a great quarterback coming back in Josh Taylor. Burstall can beat you running the ball and passing the ball. They got some good other players. Just Watkins, who's verbally committed to Charlotte. He's a really good running back for them, and some top athlete, Braylon Cherry, who's played wide receiver and DBs, committed to NC State. Just a good athletic program. Havelock, under Coach Bryant there, they were a buzzsaw last year. Had a great quarterback. They'll have to fill his shoes, but who do they turn to? The best athlete on their team, Faroe Cooper, who's committed to South Carolina. Faroe was a all-state wide receiver. And so Coach Bryant, who's an offensive guru, he's made the switch, put Faroe in at quarterback, and then you've got Darrell Scott back there in the backfield, a 1,500-yard rusher. He's a junior. Probably him and Elijah Hood are the top two junior running backs in North Carolina this upcoming year. Darrell's got several BCS school-type offers, and they're loaded again this year. Malcolm Ashley's a great lineman for them that's committed to East Carolina. And I expect Havelock to be the favorite to win the 3AA title again this year. Just a good group of kids, good group of coaching staff, and they got it going on down there.
Would you say those are the two best teams in the East this year?
Well, in that part, use the broad term East. That's kind of a little bit misleading because you don't know really who's going to be technically in the East and West with when the playoffs are started. But typically in that area, I'd say from Raleigh to the coast, yes, New Bern year in and year out is probably one of the top programs in the 4A division. And then Havelock, their run last year, a couple years ago, they got beat out by Eastern Alamance a couple times. They've been right there, so in the 3A division. So yes, those two teams could possibly be the top team in that eastern part, the true eastern part. But I know we have fans in Richmond County and Scotland and Raleigh and probably Wilmington that And Fayetteville, I won't leave out Fayetteville, that would like to make some claims to that too, and that's part about being high school football. There might be a team that come out of the blue and be one of those top teams. But those two teams right there, they had a great ball game last year. New Bern jumped out on Havelock by 2 or 3 scores, and Havelock came roaring back and just named the score. I mean, it was a big blowout in the second half when Havelock got that offense going. So I'm sure New Bern is going to be ready for that. So, and I expect a lot of points in this game.
So the big question for you is who you got winning this, New Bern at Havelock?
Well, I've really not made my picks yet, but there's some New Bern fans on our side. We got some Havelock fans on. I'm gonna go with the home team. I think I'm picking Havelock. I'm picking Jim Bryant and his gang of Rams. They're big supporters of everything I do and everything. But I'm going with the home field advantage. Cooper, Darrell Scott, and those guys. I think the Rams are gonna win this again this year.
Well, Miss King, I really do appreciate you letting us take a little bit of your time, and we'll leave you alone, and you go back to enjoying yourself.
That's fine. I love high school football, and I hate that I couldn't be there in the state right now at this moment and everything, but I'm sure our future episodes will be want to entertain everybody.
Well, I sure hope so. Well, hey, you go back to enjoying yourself, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.
Ready to have you back on the show next week.
Well, there you go, Kev. It looks like all three of us have picked Havelock, but I really could see the game going either way. What about you?
Oh, definitely. This game could go either way. If New Bern came out and won this game, it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here, but we'll be right back, give you our picks for this week's games, as well as tell you where we're headed this Friday night. Welcome back to NC Preps TV. I'm Josh McKinnon here with my co-host, Kevin Utz. Kevin, we've got a great slate of games this Friday night in the state of North Carolina. Let's pick 4 of them. In our first game, Lincolnton at South Point. Who you going with?
It's a great rivalry game here. I'm going to go with South Point to win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with South Point as well. Just too many starters lost from last year's Lincolnton team. Great Lincolnton team at that. Lost in the state championship game to Tarboro. Losing star running back D. Littlejohn. I'm going to have to go with South Point there. In our next game, Asheville at Hendersonville. Who you going with?
I'm going with Hendersonville here.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Hendersonville as well. It's a great matchup in the 1A out west. Really looking forward to that game. In our next game, New Hanover at Scotland.
Well, Scotland lost a lot of players off their team last year, but Richard Bailey said that junior class has never lost a game in their high school career, so I'm not going to argue with it. I'm going with Scotland County in this game.
I'm going to go with Scotland as well. I'm using my old analogy, take the home team when in doubt. On to our next game. I had a hard time to deciding who would win this game. East Forsyth at Mount Tabor up in Winston-Salem. But in a close game, I'm going to go with East Forsyth.
Well, I think East Forsyth's going to win this game as well. It's actually the game I'm headed up to this Friday, Josh. East Forsyth's got 8 returning offensive starters and 7 returning defensive starters. I just think there's too much talent returning for East Forsyth this game. Mount Tabor only has 1 offensive starter returning. That's tight end Lucas Wilson, and then we have 4 defensive starters returning. I just think it's going to be a struggle with them plugging in new talent. So I'm going East Forsyth in this game to win it. How about you, Josh? You come see me at the game? Are you going somewhere else, or where are you headed at this week?
Well, yeah, I'm headed up to the Triad area of North Carolina as well. I'm headed to Greensboro to Northern Guilford to see the Page Pirates take on the Northern Guilford Nighthawks. Northern Guilford obviously has got top running back in the state, and the NCPreps.com 3A preseason player of the year, running back TJ Logan. TJ's committed to UNC. Last week, the Pirates gave up 230 yards on the ground to a defense that returns 2 starters that are a bit undersized. Is TJ Logan going to run all over him? That's really kind of what I'm looking to see. I want to see, what kind of running back he actually is. I also want to find out, is this Page team going to be able to respond to losing James Summers? can this young quarterback Justin Putnam come in and and he's got big shoes to fill, but can he take over that role as a leader on this team? He went 20-0 as a JV starter, so we'll see. I'm looking forward to it, Kevin, and I'll be up there Friday. Maybe we can get together after the game or something.
Yeah, hopefully so. I want to get the updates on your game, and it's gonna be a great game as well.
And remember, as always, folks, you can follow us on Twitter.com for in-game scores and updates. At Twitter handle Josh McKinnon, that's at JoshMckinnon. And
At Kevin Utz 1, that's at KevinUtz1. I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in today and listening. And remember, each week you can tune in to hear us again on NC Preps Live TV.
And until then, tune in to ncpreps.com for your latest news and coverage of high school football in the great state of North Carolina.